born in Budapest. You had a father who had very high expectations of you when you were growing up. I remember reading a lovely story about you coming home, telling him how proud you were that you were second in the class, only for him to say, "You're leading the group of losers." He expected a lot of you.
Well, my father had two reasons to see the world like this, two extremely different reasons. One was political. He was a hardliner anti-communist. So he hated that he had to live behind the Iron Curtain, and he hated that his sons were growing up in this Russian oppression and this anti-Anglo-Saxon, how he called it, world. And he said, the only weapon, the only arms, what you can ever have, my son, is education, is knowledge about the world. So this is the only way to beat communism, so that you're just better than. And so that's why he had a really high expectation. The other thing was that he was born under the very difficult times of Hungary, and he lost his father as he was about 8 months old on tuberculosis, and because they didn't have the money to cure his father, my grandfather, and he was born poor, very poor, and he worked very hard to become an academic. Today it's normal that someone who is was born poor had practically no chances, makes it big in a way. But it was not like that in the 30s and the 40s, as he was as a young guy. And he said, the only way to really to make it, that your dreams come true, is that you work hard. And his saying was, my son, don't dream your life, you should live your dreams. But herefore, you should really work hard on that.
How important for you growing up was radio?
I must admit, if I would not had Voice of America, what was the only source, which is being a kind of the twin station of Radio Free Europe. It was the same entity actually, and it was shortwave radio coming out of Munich, but it's an American entity, of course, and they were playing that what the Russians called the poison of the soundtrack of the free mind, the poisoning of the communist idea. And it was like Jethro Tull, prog rock, because the Russians had an idea, since Stalin agreed with Hitler that jazz is, the poison of the educated people, that in the end of 60s and the beginning of 70s, that prog rock, so especially British prog rock, and later on the American fusion, which was kind of an answer on this. So let's talk like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Jethro Tull, King Crimson, and so this classical prog, the early Genesis. Yes. And then the answer from America, Return to Forever, by the Repo, Bracker Brothers. So Mahavishnu Orchestra. So this is the soundtrack of the free mind. So that's what we have to do. So Voice of America got disturbed by the Red Army, that they were just trying to destroy the radio waves in a way, but most of the time we could get it. And I had a lousy Czech mono tape machine named Tesla. So that was actually what made me to be a musician. So radio was absolutely important. And as the communists discovered that rock music could be, give a little fresh air to the guys, because otherwise they're just exploding. Type of thing,
They had a song committee, didn't they? The Communist Party. I remember reading about this. Literally everything was listened to.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. So, and I got caught by the police from stage because I was singing stuff what was not, not contrasigned by the censor. So, and it is. Let me tell you this way around. The most of the people, journalists or lyric writers, lyricists, poets, they were writing in a way that the censor should not correct anything anymore, And sometimes they were genius touch-ups. One of my friends from the time wrote a song, became a #1 song. It was an anti-communist anthem, but it was so intelligently, politically written that it took about 3 weeks to have it as a #1 song until they realized that it's an anti-communist song, and then we just came a track, and from all the record shops, the vinyl single was taken out, and the radio never played it again. So because it was so. In a really, really very sophisticated way written. So that was our times, This it was crazy. And I mean, for you as a British radio man, I mean, this is hard to imagine that for a wrong statements on air, and you could get in jail for 10, 20 years, to get to Siberia.
And the other interesting thing is here, and again, a lot of people may not realize this or know this who weren't brought up in that background. English wasn't learned as a language.
Definitely.
Was it? If you wanted a second language from your own language, it was Russian, Chinese, anything like that. So literally, you had to teach yourself.
Also, and this is even more radical. The idea was, and I must admit it worked, that from North Korea to Cuba, the whole so-called Second World is speaking Russian to each other, like the First World does with English. So that was the idea. And indeed, as I was playing, as I was 17, and we played around in these so-called socialist countries, that mutual language was the Russian. I hate it. I mean, I really desperately hate that language. And of course, we couldn't. I'm an academic, so I studied music, but even in that case, we were not learning English or German or French or anything like that. So. And if you were if you wanted to learn a third language, this was Chinese. So and this is but it has one upside. One is very strange upside, extremely strange upside. When you ever call it upside, that the Hungarian Russophobia, so the desperately hate of the Russians, which was gained more and more after 56, the uprising, the revolution, where my father was a part of it, but what we were reading Dostoevsky, we were reading Pushkin, we were listening to Stravinsky, we saw the Eisenstein movies, so we know their culture, so we're judging things differently, because we know that they have a total different understanding of the basic things in society as we do have. So I was growing up a bit under the very strong influence of my father, who was always calling that Anglo-Saxon influence. So that and he gave me the books to learn English from the book. I never know that. And Hungarian is the only living language which is writing phonetically. So it was a hell of a challenge to find out how you, because the word enough you would write in Hungarian I-N-A F, and the way you write it in English, then you would say as a Hungarian and a uk. So to learn it from a book and not hearing English spoken is a hell. So that was, I was learning as I escaped through the tunnel, and fortunately I was not get killed. And I thought I can speak a little English, but it was just a misunderstanding. I could read English.
So those first gigs that you got to see for the first band live performances, Spencer Davis Group, Stevie Winwood had just joined it, and then you saw Traffic. Now, again, there were quotes I've seen describing life in Hungary at the time in the 70s as, quote, the happiest barrack, because you had more freedoms than other communist countries. So you got to see some of these British bands, but how did it go when you went to see them? I mean, the songs that they were playing, I mean, were there any songs that they weren't allowed to play? Were you all told to sit down and be quiet? Were you allowed to dance? What was the deal, and what was that night like when you saw your first gig?
So, number one, I have discussed one of these iconic British musicians, that statement about the happiest barracks, okay? In my young years, as I was living behind the Iron Curtain, I was playing on those countries, like in Poland and Czechs and all this, Romania and Yugoslavia back then, and indeed Hungary was the happiest barrack. So they were right, but had a very simple, very funny attitude, because one of the culture minister of Hungary, they copied everything of Goebbels, how to treat the young.
Yeah.
Because national socialism and international socialism is very close in a way of treating free minds, So this must be the clear understanding, and the way that they said, okay, the Goebbels was wrong in that they were not using co-education. So if you bring the 15 years and 16 years and 17 years boys and girls together, then you won't have revolution against the communism, because they will keep themselves happy. If they give them a little bit music, that's gonna be fine. And that's what they did. That's why Spencer Davis said back then, and also Steve Winwood, this is the happiest barrack, because they saw that 17, 18 years old, gathering boys and girls, like more than in England, or because it was the ventilation, in a way,
absolutely.
And so say, for instance, this sounds so funny today, but they say the capitalist, the girls have to wear bras, but we are the free, we don't even manufacture bras, So this was so stupid. This is so funny, strange, like a cabaret today, from looking back. But I can imagine when Steve Winwood comes there, she's 20 years old, and sees this. Oh, hey, where's the answer? Happy barrack. So, but behind of that, I will never forget it. The first Traffic concert that I don't know, probably at least a fifth of the audience, let's say 2,000 policemen, was waiting for us as we came out of the stadium. I mean, on horses and other things. So it was so radical, controlled. But first time in my life I saw a Hammond organ. So it was fantastic, and Stevie was singing. Oh, wow. So this over fantastic times, and we thought that this kind of music is going to that means freedom to us. So and let's say, looking back and creating music for today, and talking about our new album, and this album is also as political as as I was 20 or 19 or 18. So if I'm reading the reviews and how fresh this album is, well, I mean, maybe it has two reasons, because the writing is as inspired, like by the this labyrinth of crisis, what the world right now, and I feel that I have a kind of responsibility to do something about it. And on the other hand side, because this very album, we did it differently as all the other albums, because we came together in the studio and you recorded analog, but which is, we were not doing that for about 25 years. So all of a sudden sitting in around, and having pencil in the hand, and then, so this is right. But it's, I'm just saying this because you started this wonderful moment to talk to you. Thank you for that privilege. Where I'm coming from, and that was my youth, and that was my past. And this album is circling back to that, because. But
you don't want to get you certainly don't want to get arrested, though, do you? 17 times.
No, of course not.
I'm looking at this, and you're thinking 17 times. What made you stop after number 17, and why didn't you stop after the 9th? And why was it you were able to get out? Because with the record that you had then, I would have thought that the authorities were looking at you thinking, this guy is nothing but a troublemaker. Let's just throw him in there and lose the key.
Well, they were trying, but my popularity as a strong rock voice of the opposition students was remarkable in a way. So imagine today's music industry, that I had a kind of normal page, a large handwritten poster, that we are going to play this in this place in the 3 universities. Just putting up that no one really realized that, because handwritten thing like I lost my bag type of thing. No, but we are going to play this, and 5,000 people showed up. So I never been on radio or TV or in the press. It was enough to say. And my band called Jam, so because we were always inviting other guys to jam with us, so this was a kind of open thing. So we played our songs, but for soloistical improvised parts, we were welcoming also a lot of other players, and we were bridging over, because the communist was also really racist, and like the Russian society has, the West is not really getting that, but and we were really sort of decades ahead with that. We wanted to have the gypsies were so welcome on our stage, so it was we didn't have any racial barriers with Jam, and it was back then in the 70s. In the communists were building racial barriers, and we were tearing even that. So we did everything wrong in their reception, So because we were kind of this modern Anglo-Saxon thinking, that no race is existing. We're just human beings,
So when you decided, right, this is it, we've got to get out of here. How prepared were you? But how prepared were you for the potential that it could be life-ending? Because there was a chance that they could react by using live ammunition, live rounds. You could get shot at. And I read with interest the detail of the story, how you waited until midnight. You put meat down for the dogs, so the dogs didn't pick up the scent. The whole thing. But then you had to travel through one of the longest tunnels in the country. I mean, it was 5 miles long and dodged long trains. So how prepared were you for the ultimate sacrifice of getting your freedom?
It took about 6 weeks. As from the point of we said, yes, we're gonna do that, to questioning this, to considering, and because we couldn't share that with anyone, because I couldn't share with my mom or with my brother, because it was about 5 years jail if they were not, calling the police, and so that, and if ever the police could prove it that they knew that we are going to do that. That would be the highest danger for my mom or for my brother. And so therefore, actually, from today's point of view, let me add this little funny, cynical, sarcastic point of view to it, that the communist cultural leadership were pointing out two guys, Gabor Chupo, he was a cartoonist, 22 as me, and myself was a musician, and they were saying, okay, we're gonna show that these guys gonna never make it. So never ever. So Gabor started his career in Hollywood with Simpsons and then
Rugrats.
Yeah. So he had 2 stars in the Hollywood Boulevard. I'm happily having 72 gold records in the wall in my studio. So let's give the credit to the communist culture minister that they were choosing 2 of us
But once you got over there, that wasn't the whole. It wasn't a question of you got through the tunnel and then life suddenly delivered you the dreams that you'd always dreamt. I mean, you had to. For one, you didn't know where you were coming out the other end, and you're traveling around the country, telling people who questioned you that you were finished students who'd lost your tour group.
That was the story with this Finnish student thing, because in the 70s it was the huge misunderstanding that the Finnish language and the Hungarian language have something common. So they sound like. And so I misused that misunderstanding to explain it that I'm actually a lost student from Finland. So it was really strange. I mean, but that's what you could read. But now I add something what I never was telling to any interviews, because coming out of the refugee camp, I was 2.5 weeks in a refugee camp, and then I had my first job as a drummer in a traveling theater.
Yeah.
And to make the down payments for the first drum kit and all this. And so for connections all over, somehow as a couple, a lady was working in the mayor's office in a little town, a part of Stuttgart, and a guy was working in a tax office. And so they were offering that I can stay in their house. They were normal, everyday people. So what am I doing, stupid me, coming out of this? I never told that in any interview before. What am I doing? So 75. So it's kind of, the war was not that far. So I see this guy that he has a stiff leg and a stiff arm. So it felt like, it must have been one of these, from the Second World War, so German guy. So I'm in my lousy English, and he has even lousier English. I'm asking, what have you, at the first dinner at their house, and she's cooking and I'm sitting serious, and what have you done during the Second World War? How stupid is this question in that moment? And they're inviting you and giving you shelter, So the guy is answering, I'm the first German, and definitely the last German, who will ever admit this. I was a very proud Nazi. Whoops. Imagine that momentum of life. I mean, how can you go on with, and you're just in the middle of the soup, this is your first evening in the house. So I must admit, I became very close to this gentleman, because he indeed, he was the first and the last, because he was telling how he got into that and how he got out of it. And he was the only person ever could tell how he got poisoned his mind, and how he was active against anti-Semitism and traveled to Israel and plant a tree. So it was. He was a Stalingrad veteran, so he was not in any shape or form involved in a Shoah, but he told from his point of view Stalingrad, and I'm very thankful that I met in my life someone who was honest about it. you know, and he was
Yeah,
not
yeah.
to tell the bullshit. I was not. We didn't know anything, you know. And it made possible, to start a new life in a way without millions of question marks to start with.
You ended up in the pop disco world, as we know, and you were hugely successful. Genghis Khan, the job getting with the Eurovision Song Contest, etc. And again, I mean, this gave you again a bit of a boost because it gives you a degree of money, it gives you fame, and it also gave you. So I gather the only reason you agreed to do that Eurovision thing was because you got 3 months of free studio time.
Yeah, sure. That was the only reason because, as we all know, this every story of a pop star, everybody think that you are getting rich, but you're not. So you make other people rich. That's the point. Yeah, you create a lot of money, but not for yourself, but for someone else. So this is the story for every pop star. So I was also one of these misused guys, but it's okay. I mean, you learn it, as you know. So I was suffering. So instead of being a happy boy that you're leading the charts and you're nine title pages in the same week, and you make it in the front of a kiosk picture. Instead of really loving that moment, I went to every rock club and I went there to jam in to prove yes I'm a real musician, is not just a pop singer with some number one record. So it was funny today looking back. Hey Mandoki, you could have enjoyed this moment. So, but I was
absolutely, because listen, I went back and looked at the videos, and I went back. I listened to a bit of the music. I mean, of its time, this was very much like there was a guy called Frank Farian. Who put together Boney M and a lot of those. I think he did the Far Corporation as well, who did that a version of Stairway to Heaven with Robbie McCauley as the vocalist, and it was all very of its time. And there was absolutely nothing embarrassing about that. I mean, it's certainly something to celebrate. But if you move, if you move forward to that, and you get to, you have your solo output through the 1980s, you end up going to the States. You go to LA. Where you're working, you meet up with, talking about disco, because you went out with Amy Stewart
it was my girlfriend at the time,
who had some massive hits over in the UK. She did a version, didn't she, of The Doors' "Light My Fire"?
Yeah, it was her second number one song. I mean, it was wonderful. I played drums for her, So I, as we were a couple, I mean, but it was. It was a wonderful creative issue as well behind of our love affair, and it was a great time because I learned a lot, and I was I bumped into Howard Jones and Nick Kershaw, and Cutting Crew and Ultra Vox, so these kind of friendships resulted from that time.
And so you get to the get to the 90s and the Soulmates. Now, many people have these dreams that they will collaborate with some of the greatest rock stars of the moments, the legends. How did you manage to convince so many people? I mean, I tried to write them down. I gave up after about 5 minutes because there was so many names on here. But how did you get those people to get on board, the likes of, Jack Bruce and Kimball and Dimiola and all of these guys? Why did they see something in you?
I never convinced anyone. So I was never approaching anyone. It was not like that. It was about the music. So I spoke, about the vision that, and here we go. Let's play the game that you are like, one of those guys, And I said, look, I have a vision that that I was influenced very much by the British prog rock in my teenage time, and that I love that value of the complex compositions, the long complex pieces. I would not even call it songs, but it's relevant, socially relevant, politically relevant lyrics and the poetry, and this was so, and I was the harmony role and all this. But I was missing something in this kind of most of them, not everywhere, but most of them. Was this a brilliant soloistic brilliance of an Al Di Meola, of Michael Brecker, or Randy Brecker, or Bill Evans, or name it. And I said, okay, if someone comes up with melting this American fusion, soloistical brilliance, but very simple pieces, and coming together just because of the virtuosity, and mostly not any songs, or if songs, then that's very simple lyrics, so super little things. But if we merge this one intellectual thing and the fantastic way of the instrumental work, say for Return to Forever, merged with Jethro in a way, then there's something fantastic, new stuff is coming out of it. So I wrote those songs, and the way why we just got together in that way, it was because of the music. So because of my compositions and the lyrics, and lyrically I was very, very much influenced by Hungarian literature. So in English, of course, but from the way this poetry comes from that, and so. But Ian Anderson said to me, "It's the first and the last time that I ever gonna sing anybody else's lyrics." Because so they felt attracted by the songs I wrote, and it was always a kind of. It was much easier than ever anybody because this is a band of band leaders, and band leaders know that ego kills music. So when we got together, that no ego in the room. This is just music. This is just loving of music. So this is a fantastic gathering.
Just for those. For those people that don't know, you've had 35 Grammy winners in a collective over this period of time who have sold in the region of 350 million albums. I mean, Jack Bruce likened you to Duke Ellington. You were called the Hungarian Quincy Jones, which I suppose has the more to it these days. Of course, we lost Quincy Jones a few weeks ago. You must have come across him in your time.
Of course, we knew each other very well because we met in Netherlands when I was visiting Michael Jackson, and then we had a little hang down, and then we were going into a friendship, and just to as we were sadly at the funeral of Jack Bruce. With Eric Clapton, and we were just sitting in Jack's pub in London. In the late night, my mobile phone was buzzing, and was Quincy Jones on the phone, and he said, "Leslie, you are probably with Eric Clapton in a funeral of Jack," and then said, "Of course," and then I'm very sad that he passed. And I said, "Okay, you need a new bass player. You come over to New York, and I introduce you Richard Bona." So these are as very sadly we lost John Lord. Then again, got a call from Quincy, and he was recommending Corey Henry. So who was already, as he was 30, he had already 3 Grammys, and we celebrated then Corey Henry's 30th birthday in Paris on the stage of Olympia. So that all came together in that way.
Greg Lake described you as the best band that you will ever hear. I mean, how does it feel for you personally when people actually say these things in public? Duke Ellington, the Hungarian Quincy Jones, you are this, you are that, it is the best man. How does it make you feel?
Makes me feel that I should even work harder. That the next album should be even better. And it's just an inspiration. So I'm not taking that any other way than as an inspiration and as a privilege and as an honor that all these legendary icons are sharing the vision, and this gives me even more energy to do it.
So the 11th album then for the Soulmates, which has been out a good few months now. All of you together in the same room. You've referenced this earlier on, and the analog recording. But to get everybody together in a room, as opposed to file sharing, it must have been a wonderful feeling. And the end product has to benefit from this, doesn't it? The proximity and being close to everybody.
Well. Actually, everybody thinks that it was extremely complex to make this happen, but it was not, because all of us love the idea to getting together, because and everybody knows my studio. So, and it's a very large complex. So you have here that room,
right on the lake. Gorgeous place.
Yeah. So you have the Bösendorfer and the Hammond and the Fender Rhodes and stack of Marshall, a stack of this and stack of that, and the big drum room. So and the huge SSL, so you have it all as it used to be, and all of a sudden we realized one thing that I would like to share with your listeners, that a limitation could be a great inspiration. Mm-hmm. What do I mean by that? All of a sudden you have only one track for a guitar solo and not 72 tracks for a guitar solo, like in digital age you you record everything. In analog age you are limited, so this is nothing else than a handwritten love letter with a pen, because all of a sudden and if you write something wrong, you have to rewrite the whole thing. And as is, today's pop music or today's rock music with the digital age is the whole focus is on the post-production. And all of a sudden we had a refocus. And I didn't have my analog machines in the studio anymore. It was in a basement, so because we were not using it. So we are on tour, anniversary tour, and Tony Carey of Rainbow is coming up to me and saying, "I really hate you, Leslie. I really hate you desperately." So what the hell is happening? So I'm listening to the songs what you're writing during this tour, and it sounds like you would be 25. You have, we all wrote our big songs when we were 25, and you coming up with the best writing ever. Full of energy, full of dedication, very political. You want to change the world, and it's not like Woodstock would be tomorrow and not day before yesterday. And so I was just kidding, and I was that was something that was a compliment, and that was touching me. And all of that, I don't know, maybe it was Ali Maola, but I can't recall anymore who it was. But they say, Leslie, do you have still your old analog machines down in the cellar, in the basement of the studio? So I said, of course I have. It's sealed, fine, well, we were not touching it since ages, but we were, in a perfect way, we would just seal it. So coming back from the tour, go down to the basement and say, look, and taking off all the plastics, and pushing up my engineer on my elevator, and I was a kind of instrumental elevator to the studio. So pushing up and switching on, okay. And so before I just burn up the things, calling up my old engineer who's retired since ages. So you know what? I would like to do something analog again. Would you come in? Of course, I love to. That's fine. So the guy comes in. In the meantime, gray hair. So I haven't seen him for a couple of years. So we're lining up the machine. We had to, it was taking about 2 days of maintenance. But nothing wrong, but just, and then to find tapes, which is, because all the old, the quantities, all the tape manufacturers are gone from market. So
Yeah.
who's creating, and of course costing a fortune in the meantime. And and then we have set it up, and then I was sending an email to everyone. So you know what, we're gonna do that really. I mean, the machines are on, and I wrote this little silly thing. The recording is simple: right room, right instrument, right amplifier, right microphone, the right attack, and machine runs, and that's fine. That's all. So, and everybody had a smiling, okay, and then we coordinated the timing, and we were doing it. So, and that's why it's because all of us. And now one more secret. So, we were not coming together and started to play. We were not, that would have been a huge mistake. But we were sitting in a circle, and acoustic guitar, a little percussion, piano, and so then Hamilton, and we were reading. So we called it reading rehearsal. Just like, okay, and if you have the 8 bars this, and okay, then the modulation, and then okay, what about change? Okay, fine, and let's double that chorus, and let's come back with another 12 bars. This, so in the circle. So and all of a sudden, I wrote with pencil the sheet music, which I'm printing out since ages, because programming and printing and so we have almost. It felt like new with a razor, and all of a sudden writing track sheets again. Wow! It was so the technicalities of the recording were so refreshing in a way, because you have 180 tracks on your Pro Tools, in a digital age, and all of a sudden you have 24 tracks, and you have a sheet, and this is it, and you've played together, and you smell together, you sweat together, you looking at each other, and every move, and every blink of an eye is wonderful. I mean, it's wonderful. You go out for dinner together and play on. So it was fantastic. It was just a great time.
A musical manifesto for today's world. And this a pivotal moment. So it was written, this commitment to awareness of socio-political issues. It's tricky ground to cover these days, isn't it? Due to the polarization of political views and opinions, that if you attempt something like this and you get it right, then all well and good. But if you get it wrong and you alienate half the people, then that's obviously not so good. So how do you get the right balance?
The answer is simple. Music is the greatest unifier, and indeed, I'm coming from an age where we were, let's say, we were talking about Kant, Immanuel Kant, like a philosophical night, and I was 19. And we were total different opinion. I was 25. And we were total different. The guy who was at a different opinion about Immanuel Kant or whatever, about Karl Marx, it doesn't matter. So in a philosophical leverage, we were not hating each other because we had different opinions, So this is something, this kind of division in the world, in our world, this is new. This has a lot to do with social media, with the short attention span. This is a lot of hate is generated by that. So my answer is, music is the greatest unifier. Our position is always on the side of the victims, where we try to reroute the light, what we get, to the places where it's dark. And in a way, I always say, I don't have a voice. This is the voice, but the people, their love of our music is propelling our creativity. So this is actually their voice. So I owe them honesty. And the honesty is, I'm trying to build bridges, because the challenges of our world, we're only going to come over if we are holding hand in hand. The young rebels and the old rebels, we have to find each other's hands, because this challenge is what we are in right now. Who would have thought 5 years ago that we have war in Europe? You know, I mean, it's so many. In my understanding, is the world as 89 as the wall came down in Berlin and the Iron Curtain collapsed. After that, you know, the Hungarian were just, you know, every week they were just protesting. 89, that was about 56. There was huge protest that the victims of the 56 uprising against the Russians have to rebury it, so that, and then they should have get a monument, and they were heroes. That was about it. So in May and June '89, you know, the 100,000 of students and workers went on streets in Hungary, and they yelled to tear down the wall. You know, and for them it was the Ronald Reagan, the hero, who said that Mr. Gorbachev opened the gate and tear down the wall. And that's what they, you know, was the first English sentence what all these kids learned in Hungary, '89. You know, Mr. Gorbachev.
What do you think about this? Is just an aside to what you were just talking about. What do you think about the people? I've seen this written in the last few years, where the economic times have got a little more difficult, as you know, with the East and West, certainly in Germany, the former East Germany, with people looking back and saying they're getting misty-eyed over communism, and they're sitting there thinking, well, we had jobs. We might not have had great jobs, but we had jobs. We had money. We might not have had a lot, but we had some. The state provided. What do you think about those views that have been? They're not on every newsstand, but there is a section of that society that is now beginning to look back almost with a rose-tinted glass. You know.
Oh wow! I mean, that was torture. There was censorship. That they were killing on the border. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, just I want to go to Spain for holiday. Okay, I'll kill you for that. So, and what are we talking about? Spying each other. So, but nevertheless, I'm coming from that angle. The communist system was evil and most unhuman system ever. But what we have not learned to understand in the Western Hemisphere, that this pressure, this incredible pressure, what you get in a dictatorship, brings you together, because no one has money. You know, you don't have that, you know, economical or financial driven move in a society. You know, you're human. You're neighboring. You're camping, and you have your group sex things. You know, you're naked, and you go. You know, so I'm talking about really. It's a different because the pressure from the system is so strong that you're getting closer, this is human, and all of a sudden you are closer to other people who are, you know, because that is the only way to survive the pressure what the dictatorship are executing over you. And this is what we're not understanding in '89. You know, that somehow we could learn a bit about that kind of humanity. You know, that doesn't matter how much you made or how much I made. You know, the money doesn't matter. You know, because we all have nothing. You know, so we were all waiting for 7 years to get a Trabant. You know, so the lousiest car ever was built. You know, and somehow. This is, that what you were quoting. I read it and I say, guys, what the hell are you talking about? But they don't. But what they really mean, that they miss. What they miss, I understand. But they they put it in the wrong words and
Yeah, I get it.
discussing really wrong words. So they were missing this. Hey, let's get together for barbecue, and you don't need to invite, and it's not. So this the social gathering was a different, because of this oppression. And when you get into the capitalist system and everybody's a bit, who making it, and
Yeah.
and then you get in the social classes more, and then when you in a dictatorship, you're just a bit closer to each other, and this is say for instance, because everybody is poor in a communism, so this is a part of the some party officials, but generally you are equally poor, and without not getting to a 5-star hotel or 4-star hotel or 3-star hotel or a 2-star hotel, but just everybody gets to camping, with a little tent, and this makes social, because you hear how your neighbor makes love to his wife because it's about a meter away from you, so this is gathering, in the Western Hemisphere, absolutely not. You cannot imagine that way, that's why in Eastern Germany, in the north, they all meant to the sea naked because it's windy, So this is a different culture, but developed throughout this time, and that's what we're probably missing. And but strangely, they say that was something like pink there or rose. No, it was not. It was an evil system. But these people, got fell in love and got married and got children. They have to conduct a life, and they had to find their personal happiness in that, and that's what we, the Free West, were not discovering as a source of something, Say, for instance, that education was more meaningful. I always say that the communists did everything wrong. Just everything. Part of one. That everybody had an equal chance for good quality education. Totally independent of the social, where they're coming from. A part of that, you are coming from an oppositional family. That was a worry, but even if you're openly like in my family, that was a kind of thing. But still, I could, became an academic, and it was a different understanding, because what you in the West were not getting were so few communists, really, that we couldn't believe that shit, But so nobody was really taken serious. So that's the ideology, because so this is and something else was first time as I came to London, I realized something, which was a life-changing experience. I always, had a problem in the Western Europe because of my humor. Began, sarcastic humor of the Hungarians. And I came to London and all of a sudden say, hey, these are English-speaking Hungarians. I mean, they have the same sarcasm, ironic humor. I mean, we're great. I mean, so that was the other thing, that we were not really learning that about that Eastern European sarcasm, because they couldn't survive that craziness of the communists. Otherwise, if you don't make jokes about it, if you, and then as I arrived in London, I said, "Hey, they do the same. What a nation! What a culture! Great."
So where is it then that you are taking the soulmates on the next part of your journey? I mean, the album's out, the reception's great. There's some live performances being done, live performances being planned. What does the future hold for you and this collective?
Oh well, it's a very easy answer. Now we are, still promoting the album, and we're talking about it still until Christmas, until the end of the year, and then we just start to do the next one. I'm starting to write, and this is just the way it is, and the world is. And then we go to Asia and we go to South America. Then, so we were trying to spread the vision around that music is the greatest unifier, and work against this division, because against the hate, against these hate speeches, and against. That's why I wrote that song, "Devil's Psychopedia," about social media, because so let's bring back the people who are ready to do that, join us to the journey, to the point that you're listening to an album. You're not listening to 1 minute of an album, but
Yeah.
So you're reading a book again, and So let's extend the attention span again, and that's will very organically, very naturally. Very automatically will create a much better understanding, and like I was just trying to tell you about that this nostalgia aspect of the Eastern German communist time cannot be about, because we would like to get back to when we got tortured and got killed. It's not. I mean, was an awful system, just an absolutely awful dictatorship. Is not so. This is evil, and we should learn about each other's life experience, and let's take on this torch, and find the ways how we can the young rebels and the old rebels, maybe they speak differently. The old rebels maybe don't gender that much, but we feel the same, about the free mind, and we are all holding on to the vision of Woodstock. It's as valid as it was back then.
So I suppose if I was going to conclude then, the quote, prog rock is the answer, the light at the end of the tunnel.
That's what Michael Gorbachev. Yeah. That's what Michael Gorbachev said to me. We had to eliminate prog rock because this is the soundtrack of the free mind. Consequently, prog rock is the torch at the end of the tunnel.